President?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, we're on air. You hear me?
All righty.
All right.
So,
Hi, I'm Steve Adams. I'm the city engineer. That's right.
Go.
take it away.
Right.
We will open this council work session and start with the Safe Access for Everyone projects and update by our city engineer, Steve Adams.
Hi, I'm Steve Adams, city engineer.
All right.
This is an important day for two reasons. One is my dog's 1-year birthday, and two is my 6-month point with the city. So tomorrow I'm here 6 months in 1 day.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had cake and ice cream at JCB. Okay, capital project update. We got lots going on. Some of them being designed by consultants, and some of them are being designed in-house. With consultants, you get things like this neat thing I'm going to show you here in a little bit. This was part of the Linwood 30% plans. We had it on an open house on it in early October, and I apologize, that was scheduled for a Tuesday, and afterwards I've been told not to have staff schedule them on Tuesdays anymore. So they will be on Monday, Wednesday, Thursday from here on out. So if council members want to attend, they will have that ability to attend. But we had a very good turnout at the Linwood open house. We had over 60 people there. A lot of comments. Most of the comments were about the diverter. Well over 35, 40%, almost half. A lot of unhappy people with it, and they all pretty much live in the county on one of the quiet roads. But we'll hit the flyover here first, and I'll go back to some comments. This is kind of cool what they did. And where did my mouse go? My mouse is there.
I feel like Snoopy, like I should
There
have
it
my
is.
World War I flying ace.
Well, you have the scarf, so
Here we go.
you're prepared. It's not red,
And
however.
this lasts about 3 minutes.
There's my house right there.
I will.
So the Cedar Crest Drive. This does currently have a left turn pocket. The left turn pocket's being removed, as you can see. And that is because we don't want to acquire lots of right-of-way on the apartment land. So we voted to get rid of the left-hand pocket and reduce the right-of-way requirements.
So
So
that's a bike path on the right as opposed to a bike lane in the street?
Okay.
Did look
Yes.
separated.
Yes, on both sides. We decided, we had an early meeting with the consultant, and we decided that to promote more of the non-cyclists to use it, to pull the bike lane off the street, because this is a busy street. It's several thousand vehicles a day. And to get kids to go to an elementary school, to get parents to ride with their kids to an elementary school, the bike lane on the street's great for cyclists. If you know the stats, about the upper 40% will ride on a bike lane on the street, upper 10% will ride on the street without a bike lane, and the other 60% like something safe. They like an off-street path or something like this. So we are going with 10-foot multi-use paths on each side of the street. We'll have little symbols on them. The outside part will be a pedestrian way, and the inside part will be a bike lane. The path is black. It will be pervious asphalt path. It's about a third the cost of concrete. But the driveways across it, you notice, are still concrete. So it'll be a nice visual. As you're riding your bike on the path or walking, when you hit concrete, you're on a driveway. So it'll give you a warning that could be a car pulling in, car pulling out. So we're going with that style of path, but it's on both sides of the street.
So is that still Upper Cedar Crest? There is
This
not
is Cedar Crest
Aspen.
right here, yes.
So right now, there are always cars parked on both sides of that throat as you come into Cedar Crest. So from the looks of this, that parking will be eliminated, is that
It will be pushed
right?
back.
And the throat of it is opened up wider so people can actually come in and out at the same time?
Throat will be narrower. The throat was going down to 24 feet. It's probably around 30 or 32
narrower.
feet now.
But
So you can
there's
see the
a-
bulb out.
Right.
You can see the
There's more
bulb
of
out
a
right here.
curve.
Right.
I mean, at the actual
30 feet
connection.
plus 2 cars is less than 24 feet.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So the throat will be narrow, no cars will park there, so it'll be, the curb extensions, I've done a lot in my past job, and they've been used here a little bit, but they're beneficial in several ways. A, you have a shorter distance for the people to cross the streets. You have 24 feet, so a person who is not as quick or ambulatory can get across that easier. It also brings the pedestrian out more visible to traffic. You're not hiding behind a car. So you're out on the edge of the street, and you get good eye contact between the pedestrian on the ramp and traffic coming up. So I've done many of these in my other job, and I think it's going to be a kind of a standard practice here. It also works as a traffic calming device because the street narrows and people feel they should go slower when there's less distance to drive fast.
Right.
And as you mentioned, it'll pull cars back, so there'll be less conflict right after this point.
Yeah, that's great.
And so are those double bike ped paths starting all the way back at Railroad?
Not quite. We're about 300 feet up Railroad. That intersection has a lot of problems, and we decided not to go down and touch it. The intersection itself, I understand, we own the signals, but the intersection's is controlled by Clackamas County. We have the north leg, which is Linwood, and we have the west leg, which is Railroad. The east leg and south leg is Harmony, and that's the county controls both of those. And for the best records I can find, the county controls the intersection. This thing fails every afternoon if you've ever driven it at 4 to 6. It fails in two directions, basically northbound Harmony and westbound Harmony. It backs up horribly. The estimated fix is something around $20 million.
Yeah.
So if you want it, we can get it. The county will give it to us. They have offered it to us.
No, thank you.
Without the 20 million.
No, thank you.
Without the $20 million.
Without the 20 million.
We get it, and then we pay they'll give us the price of a 2-inch pavement overlay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a flying roundabout is the basic plan.
So, yeah,
I
if you have
thought it
any
was
questions.
separating it from the railroad,
Yeah,
right?
flying
Okay.
roundabout.
Okay.
Yeah, there's talk about lifting it up and going over the railroad, but that would eliminate the convenience store and the business on the north side. They would have to be bought out
Yeah.
and eliminated. And I understand I got a pretty rocky review by citizens.
It did.
8 to
I was
10
on
years
that
ago.
Citizens Task Force, and
Okay.
that's got to be at least 14 years ago, and it was
Really?
the most contentious task force I've ever sat
Yeah,
on.
so,
Wow.
We should just buy personal drones for everyone who uses them.
yeah. So for right now, that we don't know what to do with the intersections, we're staying away from it for a fair distance.
Well, yeah, because it's my understanding too, if you do any work at all on the intersection itself, that you have to do the work on the work for the railroad has to be done. They have to move you can't just try to like even make
I don't think there's a
better.
simple fix there. No.
Yeah.
So,
But good. Well, this looks good.
okay. So we'll go back, and anytime you have a question, let me know. So one thing you notice, this crosswalk here, we'll be putting in an RRFB here. Now it does not show it, so, but on the future plans, this will be a
I thought, yeah.
So is that like the one on King Road at Wichita?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, and won't there also be one, when you get there, just a little further down where they've put in the crosswalk already?
Yeah, up here on the next street.
Yeah.
This one here will either be an
It's on
RRB or
further.
somehow be an improved crosswalk. I'm not sure what we're going to do here. The RFBs do run about $50,000 each, and so we may do something slightly different here. It depends on funding.
Okay.
But you can see how the bike lane comes off the street at the intersections, then goes back up on the multi-use path as it goes along.
Nice.
The dark green areas are proposed water quality facilities. The lighter green on the landscape strips are just trees and regular plants.
Like the split around the trees. That was cool.
Oh, yeah, let's go. If you
The
didn't
what
catch
on the
that,
trees?
let's go back that. I forgot about that.
Side split around a
Oh, did it?
like
Oh, yeah.
three big.
An
Look at that
existing
when
tree?
The path curves out.
Did we pass it already? Where'd we go?
I think so. Yeah, it
Oh.
was
Yeah, I
farther
think you
back.
passed it.
Yeah, we have a couple, was a huge sequoia
Oh, yeah.
there, probably a 70-inch sequoia, and then there's 60-inch fir right next to it. And I told them to take the sidewalk and do a boardwalk, split it, do a boardwalk behind the trees which is right here, no, up a little further, right there.
Oh, there.
So
Yeah.
this is going to be a boardwalk behind these big trees. The big trees right now are right at the curb. They basically are breaking up the curb, and they're squeezed in by the curb. So the curb's going to be removed. The bike lane is going to go out curb tight right here. The whole street's shifting out a little bit. This will actually be kind of a boardwalk. It's not going to be on the ground itself because you want the tree roots to be able to breathe and to grow. Sequoias are pretty, you can't contain a sequoia very well. They will bust up almost anything around them. So that's just going to be a short boardwalk. But good eyes. Got that.
Very nice.
Can I ask a question about some of the driveways that I'm seeing? Because
Sure.
the last time I walked along Linwood, I'm remembering a lot of backyards and fences and fewer driveways. Am I seeing like additional driveways for potential, like for few that is existing access points that aren't being used for houses that otherwise, I mean, it seems like I'm seeing more driveways than actually exist.
We shouldn't be. I know.
I mean, it seems like almost every house on this street has a driveway, and I know that's not the
North end,
case.
Or north end, there are more driveways.
Right, but we've been seeing this all along, and so that's sort of what I'm wondering about.
Let me
If this
jump
is
back for a moment.
life
See if I can't pick up when we're down by the Cedar Crest neighborhood.
Down here, there weren't as many.
So one thing I need to mention to you that will
Yeah, you-
cause some citizens some heartache. But a lot of the homes in Cedar Crest face Juniper, and the backyard is here.
Right.
Typically, when you have subdivisions in today's world, you put a restriction on access from the backside of the property. And let me see if they did the driveways here. In talking to Justin, he feels confident that we can enforce our code, which says you'll take access off the lesser street, which is the residential street.
Automobile access, or they wouldn't even be able to have like a ped access onto them?
They can do ped access, but automobile, right now, this house and this house both have gates that drive right out onto the road. It's unsafe because you have a arterial road, you got cars that are backing up, especially people with RVs and boats. You don't want a car stopping on a street, backing their boat up or backing their RV up or coming out slowly there. There's going to be about 12 or 13 very unhappy homeowners when we take away access from the back, but we feel confident that case law will back us up in requiring them to use another way to access their backyard or to.
they already have existing access the other way.
They do.
So we're not talking about taking.
All of their
away
driveways face
additional
Juniper or
access.
face another street. They've been taking access off the back of their lots for decades. And some of the homes further up, there's an elevation grade difference of 3 feet or so. So those houses have a gate for like pedestrian access, but they don't take vehicle access because it's just too steep. The homes that have had a fairly flat access between the two have gotten very used to taking their RVs in and out, and it's just something you don't want to see on a busy street as for safety. So we will be doing that. We have been talking to some of the homeowners. Some of them have flat outright told us they'll hire a lawyer and they'll sue us, but Justin's aware of it. He's ready. Okay. And we had this at the open house, and we had everyone who attended it sat and watched this, and it was pretty well received. People liked seeing what was going on, what the thought process was, what the plans were. The one thing this doesn't show, that this will impact a lot of existing trees that will have to be cut down, but we are replacing them with street trees there in the area. This is where the diverter is going to be. And it will be installed with this project. And we've
Question
been,
is Clackamas County willing to continue the same style going north?
in talks we have had with Clackamas County, yes, they are. They're actually are leaning towards doing a 12-foot multi-use path on either side. I don't think we have the room for that in our area without really impacting yards even more. So I think a 10-foot on each side is adequate. Clackamas County is dealing with the 12-foot. I've asked them how do they plan to cross Johnson Creek when they get to that point, and they don't have an answer yet. Because you can't fit a 24-foot road into 12-foot paths without either putting one huge bridge or at least putting a separate bridge structure for the pass alongside that. And last I heard, they don't have an answer for that.
Are
But
they
yeah,
moving forward pretty soon as well?
they should be. My last talk with them, they were going to offer the contract to the same design company, HHPR, designing this for us, won the award with Clackamas County, and they should have had a contract either late last month or this month signed by the Clackamas County commissioner, so they should get on board, which puts them 6-7 months behind our design, so I'm not sure how the construction phase will actually proceed. And on the Monroe thing, intersection, the one unknown or difficulty will be the legs. So from here to here, this is Clackamas County, and pretty much the north leg is Clackamas County. I mentioned this to them, and I said it makes sense for us to build the intersection through the far radius of the curbs, but however, it's not our responsibility to build those sections of street. So we should be reimbursed several $1,000s for building the curb, ADA ramps, and street that is technically is on they're the road authority on. So they're aware of that. The person I talked to, it wasn't Mike Besner, it was another person on the plans, agreed that it seemed like it would be their responsibility to cover that, but he thought it would be best to build those legs with our project because it makes for a complete intersection, and then when Clackamas County comes on, they grab it from this north leg and they just keep on going north in.
Is this one of the intersections we've prioritized in discussions with Clackamas County about VRF funds and?
No.
No, it's not. Okay,
No.
thanks.
No, I haven't. I've talked to Mike a little bit about what we could team up with. This could be one of those for that 10% matching fund
I've seen
type
the
thing.
list, I just couldn't remember.
But no, we have not discussed this one yet.
I knew it started with an L. Okay.
Okay. And hopefully we get this many people out. I think we will. The last time I did a street, we had a wide bike ped lane on one side. They had a good gap in the traffic. It became a very, very popular walking route for all the neighbors. So it's amazing that when you do build something people feel comfortable on, they do come and they do use it.
Build it, they will come.
Well, and there are people who drive to Linwood School to walk their track, so maybe they'll walk this instead of doing that, yeah.
Yeah, I hope so. I think we make it a nice, comfortable route, and we get the good crossings in for people on the east side to come to the west side of the school there with the 2 crosswalks right in front of this of the school. I'm hoping to see an increase in the number of people who will walk or ride their bike. So
What's the timeline for this one?
Linwood, we are expecting 60% plans in late January, and we'll hold another open house at that time. And then we hope to go out to bid then around May. This will be a 2-year project, so I'll be under construction 2020, 2021, and we should be done by October-ish of 21, I would think. But so far, the engineer's estimate, we have enough money to build it based on the engineer's estimate at the 30% plan level. So we'll get a better idea at 60% where we're at as far as cost versus what we have out there. But right now, we're going full bore and building it as you see it there.
So
He says October. Can we go with maybe December?
I wrote it down.
I know, and that's why I'm saying this. The reason I'm saying that. Yeah. So we don't have the designs yet. We don't have the contractor. We don't have any of the pieces in place. So I'd just be cautious.
But we know you can't pour stuff after October anyway, right?
Has to be done. We've been doing it a lot lately, actually.
It's been a weird.
Were you over by the post office last week?
Or next week.
Or next week?
Or Thursday
Or
night.
Kronberg.
Ideally, you want to put asphalt down in warm weather, yes, and concrete looks better without rained apples on it, so. So we'll see. It depends on the schedule that we get and weather breaks us up, but we do hope to have this finished, I'll say, fall of 2020. There you go. Sure thing.
So you mentioned that the bulk of people at the open house were complaining about the diverter, but I would have expected that you'd get some of Linwood Elementary has been the most active with the Safe Routes to School program. I mean, they've had one the longest. You didn't get parents who were all excited about this?
Oh, yeah, we did. I think we got
okay.
about 30-40% of people who, the most common complaint was the diverter.
Yeah.
By far. But a lot of people are looking for slower traffic, slower speeds, and we've asked Clackamas County, we've teamed with Clackamas County requesting a 30-mile-per-hour speed limit on Linwood. It'll take about a year to get the paperwork through the state and whatnot, but Clackamas County is leading that effort to drop it from 35 to 30 from Railroad up to JCB, so both stretches of highway that we own and we control and they control. A lot of stuff was trees. What kind of trees are we going to install? What trees are going to come out? Some people wanted trees out. Some people wanted trees saved. They want to know what kind of tree. They wanted to move this tree from the driveway over here. It was a lot of little stuff like that. But overall, I think the separated path was very well received. Some people had safety concerns. Well, bikes are going to be running into kids on these things. I said, well, the truly fast cyclists will probably just stay in the street. They're not going to go on these 10-foot paths. So this is going to be more of the casual rider on these 10-foot paths, and there will be markings on the path indicating cycling on the left and pedestrians on the right. So, and there'll be one-way cycling each way. So.
And if you've ridden or walked in Portland, these are pretty commonplace, and people are generally fairly good at following the directions, with the exception of runners and walkers who wear headphones.
They don't hear you very well, do they, when you say passing? They just
No.
ignore you.
They don't.
I find
and they
that
don't
too.
choose to be in the correct place in the first place.
They walk four-side.
Yes.
Because they're all
But
talking.
if your kids are on bikes or your kids are walking, it all works out just fine.
Okay. So that's the main, that's the prettiest thing I have. The other projects we have going on, 22nd and River, are at 60% plans, and I do have some sheets that'll kind of, what, restart computer now? What's this mean?
Oh, no. It's being updated.
Oh, there we go.
Expecting that anyway.
Drag it to the right.
All right.
So grab the top there.
This thing?
Probably up here. Yep. There you go.
All right. Amazing.
I recommend clicking you guys.
Okay. So these are the 60% plans for River and 22nd. Here we're adding just a sidewalk on one side. This is a curb-tight sidewalk, 6 feet, and the bike lane on the street, so it's not the prettier design over at Linwood. This is being designed by AKS. This is a weird intersection. I don't know what to do with it. My preference would to make it a roundabout, a mini roundabout. However, that will add money to it, and this lake here belongs to Clackamas County, so we probably would have to take over some Clackamas County. So we're discussing what to do with this oddball. But basically, we start here, 1-inch overlay on River Road. 22nd, we start here is going to be a 2-inch grind and overlay as we go down it. But basically, 22nd be the sidewalk on the right hand, so on the right side of traffic going southbound. River Road will be on the right hand as traffic goes one way northbound. And this goes all the way down to River Road. There's an existing sidewalk right here that we'll tie into. That'll take traffic up to McLaughlin. And on 22nd, this is the odd industrial bar here where the parking almost comes right out onto the street. And they've actually striped the parking such that it's not going to work with our improvements. The striping is almost on our right-of-way. I think it is in our right-of-way. Right-of-way is right here, it's right in front of the door. So we're going to have to work with this owner about what they're going to do with parking, but they can no longer keep their parallel parking the way it is, and us put in the path there.
It is worth mentioning that there is an extensive parking lot behind and to the side of that building.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So people just have to get used to parking in a new area. But the driveway entrances should be the same. We've been talking to this owner here about, he has a fenced old driveway, and we've been negotiating with him that to leave that, to close that off permanently. He's asked us if he can move the fence over and use the asphalt in the right-of-way for parking. I think that's fine. I don't think we have a use for this, but he'll allow us to close permanent access to that if we just allow him to fence off part of our right-of-way for his private parking. So we're talking to him right now and trying to figure out the best thing to do there, but this driveway here is not a good place for a driveway, and I'd rather have it eliminated.
Well, I will tell you that from time to time, it's certainly not all the time, but people park in that driveway outside the fence. And I had a big discussion with Denny when the fence first went up. That hideous fence don't get me started. But Denny said, and Tim, that parking head in that driveway is not permitted because it blocks visibility, but that parking parallel next to the fence would be permitted. I don't think we're enforcing that much, but if you're coming out on Bluebird there, if people are parked that way, it really does impair your visibility.
Yeah. We'll make sure the fence stays far enough back. So if there is parking on the private side, we'll make sure the fence stays far enough back that we're not going to impede sight.
And there won't be any more parking on the outside of the fence.
No, because
once this happens, because that's where the sidewalk will
go there.
Okay.
Yeah. So no more parking outside the fence. The fence might shift a little bit to allow him more parking inside, but we won't go past the 15-foot, which is the clear sight distance from the edge of the curb.
Great. No, getting rid of the parking outside the fence would be a great thing, yeah.
But 22nd River, again, 60% plan comments are being gathered right now. We anticipate 90% plans to be returned sometime around February, and that'll be followed by another public open house.
Can you go back up to Sparrow?
I was going to say, you saw the pork chops, right?
That's what I wanted to bring up. Just
That one?
Up at Sparrow and 22nd. That is really important. That is like one of the, I mean, in some of the comments on a matter we're hearing later tonight, talk about the speed at which people take that turn and the speed at which they go down Sparrow. So I think that's a great thing right there to slow people coming off of 22nd into the neighborhood.
And I will also say that you're correct that intersection is weird, and I'm glad to see that there's some consideration of alterations to make it safer for pedestrians.
This one here?
Yeah, because it's just a vast expanse of pavement.
It's
and
hard
it's
for
really unclear
walking,
if you're
yeah.
a pedestrian or a cyclist, what you should do and where you should go. So that's great to see.
Yeah, so we'll have to talk more about what to do with that, and part of it might be on funding, if we can find the extra money to make that a little mini roundabout, but I think it would function best as a traffic circle or a small roundabout, and we haven't reached a conclusion yet.
Those work pretty well in Portland.
Yeah.
There's a lot of those on the greenways that they work. People figure them out pretty quick, and they stick to them.
All right. Any other questions on 22nd River? All right, let's...
Oh, well, timeline?
22nd River will have 90% plans around February. We should go out to bid again in May-ish, and it'll go under construction after that. And I do not know.
Is it a 2-year or is it a 1 year?
I don't recall. Kelly, do you recall? One. We'll see.
Okay.
It's quite a bit of work. Oh, the one thing on River I would like to mention that in the capital plan, we have a $687,000 safe stormwater bucket. It's not identified for any project whatsoever. It's just a bucket that Chuck created, and I've directed staff to at least identify some areas on this we can do some stormwater projects. There's actually quite a bit of storm being installed. There's about $250,000 in storm work being done on the street already, and I think there's some areas
On this street?
Yeah. Yeah,
Really?
we're adding storm line, quite a bit of manholes, new curb inlets, new thing, replacing just a area drain with a curb inlet. There's some new manholes, new storm pipe. There's quite a bit, quarter million estimated storm work. And so with that much money going in, I said, let's go ahead and put some lighted facilities in, tie those in to the storm system, and use some of that money from the safe stormwater fund to pay for some of this work on.
And at the you mentioned the sidewalk that exists at the bottom, which was built at the bottom of a river, which was built by the light rail project. Is that a stormwater facility there?
I don't know.
You know, they've planted sort of stormwater there.
Yeah. So we're looking for places to put additional facilities and upgrade some of that area.
Great.
Okay, how much time do I have?
Keep going.
All right. McBride McBride's pretty far along. It's at 90%. We hope to go out to bid this winter and get this constructed in spring, summer next year. We're adding a sidewalk on the east side of McBride from 17th there, and this is being changed right now. We show the ADA ramp here that's too far off from the intersection, so we're redirecting staff, and we're going to push this ADA ramp up in this part. There's a big driveway here, which isn't really a great location for a driveway. However, the other corners have no curb at all. And so I don't know if you've heard my latest thoughts on this, Justin, but I'm thinking of just narrowing the driveway there. It's at 28 feet right now. I'm going to narrow it to 20 feet and put the ADA ramp to the west of the driveway so that the pedestrians wanting to cross the street will have a clear access across it and not down here is not a good location because.
What is that stub? What is that street there?
This is Millport.
Okay,
Millport in
okay.
McBride.
Okay.
This is owned by the Dietrich family. And so, well, I'm pretty sure I can narrow the driveway down to the minimum 20 feet. 'Cause it's only a 7-car parking lot out front, and you don't need a 28-foot driveway to bring a personal vehicle into a 7-car lot parking area. So hopefully he doesn't fight too much about that. We decided not to close it, just to narrow it. And again, a lot of this is some new stormwater work, new sidewalk, and new asphalt all the way up to, I think it's Ochiko on the north side.
So you had an open house on this one too,
We did.
and well received? Five people?
5 people well received.
Yeah.
Pretty slim compared to the over 60 we had on Linwood. Obviously, industrial area, you don't have the residents coming out, you don't have the kids and school and all that, so much fewer driving factors on this. I know Beth has had meetings with several of the business owners there and brought them up to speed. Most of them are very happy about this project, want to see it go forward, and so I think it will be well received. It's just in an area where there's just nobody lives much. So.
And Mr. Samuels is complying with his court orders?
Is that the railroad?
That's the railroad, yeah.
Best I know, we're making progress on that.
Okay.
But again, that's been a very difficult person to work with, my understanding.
But we had a pretty clear court order, so,
Yes, we did.
yeah.
Cost us a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, if he doesn't comply, we're going to take our improvements up to the edge, and we're going to leave his middle just unimproved, and then he'll have to deal with it on his own. But if he allows us to work with us, we'll improve it across the tracks. If he doesn't, we'll have nice pavement, and we'll have a gap of existing that he's responsible for. But I'm thinking
Put signage up that says,
privately owned.
"Potholes courtesy of."
We'll do that. Okay, but that one's the farthest along for plans, and we should be, again, that should have got to bid in January, February time period, and get someone on board by early spring. So
Is that a 2-year?
1 year.
1 year?
Yeah.
Okay.
43rd Avenue, I don't have anything up on it yet, so I'll just give you a verbal summary. 43rd Avenue, 30% plans and open house are anticipated in February 2020. We are considering 43rd the same type setup we saw on Linwood, where we have a 10-foot multi-use path off the street. Again, we have no plans for that yet. I've just said that as a design that I think would be good in that area because it's a major route to bring people to the shopping center there. And while there's no schools directly on that street, I think it'd be a very popular way for residents to come to and from the Safeway shopping center.
And is that stretch, how far up 43rd Avenue?
43rd, we're going down to as far as Howe.
Howe.
And we're coming across on Howe to 42nd. And the 42nd's a separate project that's being upgraded. The other thing on 43rd is north of Howe, there's a sanitary sewer line on a short stretch that needs to be rebuilt because it's a maintenance nightmare for Public Works. So that'll be a separate piece of work being done north of Howe's up near Covell. And then 42nd, 30% plans open house was held last month. There, the primary number of people, again, pretty well attended. Primarily, people are concerned with speed and safety. There's no room there to put a multi-use path alongside the road, so we're thinking of a Sharrow, and people are saying, what's good with a Sharrow if cars are going 40 miles an hour? So I've asked to, have a meeting together, and let's put our heads together in engineering and the consultant, and what can we do, or GLA actually, what can we do to make this a safer, slower street, and could be curb extensions. I don't have all the answers here, but we need to figure out.
How big is the right-of-way there?
I am not sure. I'm thinking 40 feet, but I'm not sure.
So there are existing sidewalks on some pieces
There are
of it?
some existing sidewalks. Sidewalks were built fairly recent. A lot of them do not meet ADA standards. They weren't, a lot of errors in how they were installed, and so a lot of this work is bringing up to grade the deficient sidewalks and crossings.
So that one's going to be curb-tight sidewalks and no room for a bike lane, is that
Over
what
for a
I'm
bike
hearing?
lane, we want to do a Sharrow on that street, so bikes and cars share the street and keep the traffic to a slower speed. But the number one concern by everybody were car speeds and safety, and there's bus pickup zones and cars illegally pass the buses as they have their flashing lights on, and yeah. But that was a pretty well attended open house too. I understand 30, 40 people showed up. And then the Meek Street storm. We are looking to revise phase one. The current plans for phase one took it from the hillside area, which is where Clackamas County Housing Authority is. We will follow the railroad tracks up towards the Stringwater Corridor and Johnson Creek. The railroad wants upwards of $1.2 million for just the right to either get an easement or purchase some land from them, and they've been very, very difficult to work with. So we're currently looking at an alternate plan where we've been in touch with Clackamas County Housing Authority about using part of their large open space north of their tower and use it as a stormwater pond and recreational facility. And so you can design these so that there's a small permanent wet pond and you have a larger area that is for controlled waters during high flows, high storm events, and it will empty out depending on your design time. Usually within a day or two, it empties out. And so during the dry season, you have an open grassy play field. And during the wet months, you might have water 2-3 feet deep in it for a few days before it drains out. Then in addition to that, you have a permanent wet pond that just holds water almost year round. And we'd have to have a lift station there because 29th is higher. So we would put a lift station in. So the money we would save from negotiating with the railroad, $1.2 million, we would invest in a lift station. We have to revise the plans. So that'll be a pretty good chunk of money to pay the consultant to come up with plans to go down 29th. But from 29th, we just dogleg to the west, go back down into the Roswell Reservoir. The long-term impact on that is, A, we have a stormwater facility to maintain forever. I've talked to Peter about it. He's okay with it. But the advantage is that whenever you work on the railroad property, you have to hire railroad certified flaggers, and they set the pay rate for them, and you have to work through them. So anytime we went over there, did anything with our storm line or our pond that was in the railroad area, we would have to have railroad certified flaggers. And during the whole construction sequence, we would have had railroad certified flaggers. So we're trying to get away from that, go to an alternate plan that we can just pursue by ourselves without the railroad's involvement. It also makes the benefit that we can go and, even though we just redid 29th, we would finish 29th as a greenway street from the Hillside project up to the spring water. So we would pull some elements out of that plan if we did the storm line down 29th.
So that's all part of Meek,
Yes.
as well as up to the McFarland property?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, so
I didn't realize it went, I thought it was just McFarland, Murphy, Hillside. I didn't know it kept going beyond.
Yeah, no, so we divided into phase 1, phase 2. Phase 1, Meek, is Johnson Creek Springwater Corridor up to roughly the Murphy site, or basically we're doing a split on Harrison. Mm-hmm. So from Harrison to the south and east up to Oak Street, where we also negotiating for a pond there at Oak and Railroad. We're looking to go to bid in winter and get that constructed next summer. That piece is needed for the 234-unit Monroe apartment site. That's where their stormwater is going to end up draining into. We would do a temporary tie-in to the storm line that's in Harrison currently that runs west through downtown Milwaukee and out to Johnson. And then once we got the redesign done, we would take it and cut it off from that point and return it going north through the Hillside site and down 29th into Roswell and release it.
Wow. Okay.
We are about 15 over.
Okay, I'm done. Any questions? I asked you if I continue. You said, go
You were
on.
great, and I didn't want to cut it off. I knew you were only about
That was
halfway
good.
through.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Linwood took a little longer.
At least we're keeping him busy, right?
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Welcome, or congrats on your 6 months.
Yeah.
Now we know what you've been doing.
Yeah. Thanks.
So, letting library bird mitigation strategy. This is going to be presented by
None other.
manager.
Yes. Scott's adding a couple of slides for me.
Yeah. Do you want me just to pull it, or? Here you go, Steve.
So I will begin while he's pulling those up. I think that for a little bit of background for the community who may be watching, we are just completing the construction of the new Letting Library, and we have installed a significant number of windows on that facility. Originally, the request had been made that we look at low to no cost options to try and do bird mitigation at the site, and the architects did look at that, but were not able to incorporate that into the original windows. We had further discussion, thank you to Councilor Beatty, about trying to make sure that we were looking at aftermarket options as well. And so we recently went to the library task force to have a discussion about some aftermarket options. I want to show just what 2 slides, one with the feather-friendly option, which we've been investigating, which are stickers. And then the second option is typically discussed as a do-it-yourself wire model. So if you wouldn't mind, Scott, sitting, so this is the first one that we've been talking about. These would be dots that would be applied. They come in large pieces of film. And you do need a professional to install them because you need to make sure that the lines stay consistent throughout the building. And then the second one is actually outside of the windows. They don't actually touch the windows, but they are wires that are used in order to provide the same sort of visual deflection, I think. We have not priced this one, so I can't tell you how much that would cost, but we did price the feather friendly. We do have sufficient money left in the library budget to pay for that installation. But after the discussion with the task force and with the library board, we made a recommendation that we do a little bit of self-analysis. So Katie has been incredible and has been working with me to come up with a sheet that we can post in the new library, as well as some imagery that Jordan would create to invite members of the community to report any instances where they see a bird hit. We also have, the reason we have the imagery is so that you can actually place the stickers at the correct locations. And that way we'll get a sense for which windows really are the highest impact, literally impact, and which ones aren't, so that we know how much money we need in order to do the installation. We had proposed that we would come back to the library board and the task force in March after we'd had a little time in the building and had a chance to see what the community was seeing. And then we, if we still don't have anything in March, we would come back again in November if we didn't have sufficient information, do a second analysis and make a determination at that point if we didn't make it in March. I think that that is just a broad overview, but are there any questions, or is there anything I can assist with?
Well, council got a bunch of letters from people on this, I guess from mostly library board members. And, you know, I would love to be wrong. I would love nothing better than to be wrong, that we have birds, you know, striking our windows. But I think we have to be studying it. And so I think this is a good recommendation. I guess my only thought would be maybe to reconvene in June rather than wait till November after the March date. Because if we wait till November, we can't install because we've been told it can't be installed in the winter, right?
Absolutely. It would need to be during better weather. I think the concern was just whether or not we'd have substantially more information, but I have no concerns coming back in June if that works better.
Because I think that spring, I mean, one of the comments made, although we have birds here year-round. Birds are not, this is not an area where the birds all flee in the winter. One comment that was in some of the materials was that, it's the spring nesting season. And so if we do June, then we've kind of gone through the spring nesting season, and we'll see what.
I would almost say we can skip March and just do it in June.
June, yes, yeah.
Yeah, there's not going to be as much in the winter.
Yeah.
Unless I think.
Unless all of a sudden there is.
Right, if we
we'll
suddenly
know
are
that.
seeing, yeah.
Well, and part of this was to hit budget time periods. So in March, we'll be able to expend out of this current budget. In June, we'll be tying it to a new budget cycle. And so we would have to forward the funds into the new budget cycle at that point. But that's actually not a huge disruption. So if you would prefer just to have the discussion in June and hold on to the funds,
Well,
we
and
can
we
do
could
that.
work it into the budget, because I'm sure we could always find some place to put $60,000.
I guarantee.
If we don't need it, yeah.
Fairly
$60,000.
certain.
Absolutely.
Well, and I would just say that I have installed bird safe stickers on one of the windows in our house because we have had too many fatalities, and I'm often sitting on the couch enjoying my morning tea as a bird commits suicide. And I notice an uptick in that during both the spring and the fall migration seasons. So that's just anecdotal evidence, but
And are the dots working?
as far as I can tell, yeah. I haven't had any fatalities since. I haven't had any collisions since on that window. I'm still sitting there the same amount of time, so the observational period is pretty much steady. And the view is still really great. There are times of day where I do see them very, very clearly, but.
Imagine when they're backlit, you see
Right.
them. And when they're not.
Especially this time of year when you've got low angles on the sun and it's coming from the west. It's a western-facing window, so, but most of the time you don't see them.
Cool.
Study is
June?
good.
June.
We'll be back in June.
But
Thank you.
let's think about, put it in the budget asterisk question process.
Well, I think that the expenditure, what would happen is the expenditure would happen out of this year's funds if we do it in June, because I could sign a contract relatively quickly. But we'll have to put it in the budget. Well, no, we could do it all in June. We should be able to do it in the existing funds if we do it in
Okay.
June. It's just going to be, I'll have a contract ready to go so that we could sign that and get it installed quickly.
Perfect.
If there's a need.
If there's a need.
If there's a need.
If there's a need, absolutely. If there's not a need and y'all are ready to call that too, I'm great.
Well, I mean, we might even think at that point in time that perhaps we need to do another 3 months checking or something, depending on what's happening during different times of the year. I wouldn't necessarily just have it depend on one.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
Span of
probably
time.
Until we've seen a year's worth of data.
Yeah,
Oh, I don't agree.
you know?
I don't agree. Because if we wait a year, then we don't install it till summer of '20.
If we have enough data to say, yeah,
Yeah.
we have a problem,
Yeah.
install it.
Yeah.
Right.
If at that point it's still kind of, meh, we don't really,
Right.
then don't spend the money,
Right.
get a year's worth
Right.
of data.
No,
Yeah.
okay.
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I was thinking too.
That
Yeah.
makes sense.
We'll install it in both budgets.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll need that then for the second year.
Okay,
Thanks.
very good.
All right, good. All right. Upon adjournment of the work session, council will meet in executive session pursuant to Oregon Revised Statute ORS 192.6602E to deliberate with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions. And with that, we are adjourned from the work session and entering into executive. Do you want to do
Yes.
executive in?